The Prime Minister says government is looking to expand security details for all ministers.
We're looking at it now.
Meantime, the National Security Minister responds to controversy surrounding the DPM's armed robbery. Plus, local fishermen say they hope the Defense Force is paying more attention to poaching. Those stories and more coming up. I'm Nakia DeVoe, and this is NB12. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us here at Cable 12 Studios. Here are the stories coming out of the NB12 newsroom this evening. Prime Minister Perry Christie today revealing that the recent armed robbery of Deputy Prime Minister Brave Davis, who was then acting Prime Minister, has caused him a lot of anxious moments. However, Christie says he still believes his government has the answers to addressing crime in the country. Christina McNeil has more in this report.
Speaking out for the first time following an armed robbery and home invasion at the Deputy Prime Minister's house, Prime Minister Perry Christie says government is taking a closer look at expanding security detail for members of Parliament.
Looking at it now, we're looking at it now, and it is something we have to do. Happily, it very much appears that this was a happenstance kind of thing. They were just looking for somebody's yard to go into, home to go into, and did not realize what they were doing.
In hindsight, Christie says security ought to have been posted outside the acting Prime Minister's house when three masked men accosted his unarmed chauffeur and robbed Davis and his family at gunpoint in their Westridge home. However, Christie says there is no policy in place that affords acting prime ministers, former governor generals, or former prime ministers 24-hour security.
I saw another controversy develop as to whether the Deputy Prime Minister ought to have had the security. And, in hindsight, the answer is yes. But when former deputies acted, it never occurred. There was never a policy initiative towards that end. Right now, the Minister of National Security, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Attorney General, because of the nature of their positions, they have a security detail assigned to them, but none was at night. That's only the Governor General and the Prime Minister by the tradition.
Christie adds that it is easy to have a discussion about us and them when it comes to the victims of crime, but in reality, there is no us and them. When asked if he feels safe, the Prime Minister said his position affords him the opportunity to feel safe. However, he is optimistic that his administration and the work of the police force have in place the strategies that will make the Bahamas a safer place.
Do you feel safe?
But I have more security than anyone else. So in that regard, I am in a privileged position. As leader of the opposition, I didn't have it, and there's always a concern. There's always a concern when you leave your family, and whatnot. And so, from my point of view, I'm obviously safe, as one can in all the circumstances be. I really am optimistic that we are going to be able to minimize the impact of this, that we are going to have to do it. We're going to have to do it to ensure that our country is able to benefit from a new economy that is evolving in our country. And I'm optimistic about the future, and I'm optimistic about how we're going to go about dealing with crime.
Christie maintains that 12-hour shifts for police were working when they were in place. He says that only goes to show that the country needs more manpower and resources, but that alone will not stem crime. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
Well, the Minister of National Security also weighing in on the security detail controversy today. Earlier this week, Commissioner of Police Ellison Greenslade told reporters that the police force cannot be held accountable for something that's not within its purview. Well, Nottage today responding, pointing again to the police force, saying it is police officers, not politicians, who are responsible for security.
The decision about whether security is required is made by the professionals, and that is the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Now, the resources have to be provided. That matter might be referred to either myself as Minister for National Security or the Prime Minister. But the actual security is provided by, and the decision about it, we're not security specialists, we're politicians.
Nottage says the Ministry of National Security's role in security assignments is to either approve or deny an application for static security around the clock. Well, police say they have arrested a 22-year-old man in connection with that 1-year-old boy who was brought into the Marsh Harbor Clinic in Abaco with serious injuries to his arms and backside around 8:45 p.m. Monday. Police claim the child was left at home with a friend of the mother while she was at work. The child was last listed in serious condition after he was airlifted to New Providence for further medical attention. That 22-year-old was taken into custody around 2:25 this afternoon, according to police, who say they expect to charge the man with grievous harm tomorrow. In the wake of this week's major capture of several thousand pounds of illegally caught seafood and 17 of the poachers responsible, the president of the Bahamas Commercial Fishers Alliance says more needs to be done. Adrian LaRota said millions of dollars in seafood are stolen from the country's waters, and local fishermen have to deal with frequent altercations with aggressive poachers. Dana Smith has more.
LaRota called for poachers caught in Bahamian waters to be jailed. He said local fishermen are at war with poachers who not only raid the country's resources, but are known for their hostility and attacks on local fishermen.
It's a very hostile, very tense situation, very hostile. They're hostile towards us, and we retaliate. We defend our territory. They're very hostile, okay? They would have no difficulty throwing a firebomb at you, okay? And in most cases, we are outmanned because most of these vessels have sometimes up to 80 men. Sometimes we are outmanned, so that there is always a fear. So but we're not going to back down.
LaRota said poachers operate at will in Bahamian waters and even steal catch from traps set up by Bahamian fishermen. He said conflicts between poachers and local fishermen have been occurring more frequently, and there have been instances of injury.
One of our fishermen, he was attacked, but they were attacked. Their vessel was attacked by some poachers because the poachers were again harvesting product from their apparatus, from their traps. And they went there to chase them away, and the poachers, of course, retaliated by firing shotguns at them. And in doing so, one of them was hurt. He wasn't seriously hurt, but any injury is a bad injury. Okay, and as a result of that, they had to defend themselves. They chased the poachers away. And thank God that incident turned out, very well. Nobody lost their lives or anything. But these are the kind of things we face out there.
Although praising local authorities for doing the best they can under current laws, LaRota called for harsher penalties for poachers, including jail time. If poachers are simply fined and then deported back to their country, he said, they will only come back.
We strongly believe that these people should be sent to jail, because the only thing that's going to cause them to understand how serious we are about poaching and cause them to stop doing what they're doing is if they are taken away from their families. Okay, these guys come here, they pretend they don't know where they're going, but they know exactly where they are. Every one of them has a cell phone that has GPS coordinates. Okay, so they know full well that they're in the Bahamas and they know they're getting illegal product. They know they're engaged in an illegal activity. They should be sent to prison for whatever the minimum time is, but take them away from their families for a while and send them home. Because if they're deported on Friday, I'm prepared to bet that on Tuesday, Wednesday, one of them or two or three of them will be back here in the Bahamas again.
LaRota's comments come after the Defense Force on Saturday captured 17 Dominican poachers and their 70-foot ship, which contained several thousand pounds of illegally caught seafood. LaRota said the, quote, destructive practices of poachers damages the environment and the livelihood of local fishermen. Dubbing it a lucrative business, he claimed millions of dollars worth of fish are stolen from Bahamian waters by poachers annually.
We lose about $20 million a year in lost fisheries products as a result of poaching. That's $20 million that is not being placed into the Bahamian economy. That's $20 million that cannot go towards our fair share of taxes. Okay, that's And that's just on the face of it. I seriously think that they believe that the Bahamas is their country, because they want to just operate alongside you, within 400 or 500 feet, quarter mile, you can see a poaching vessel.
LaRota said he wants the Bahamian public to understand just how important it is to stem the tide of poaching. Reporting for MB12, I'm Dana Smith.
Well, it was after this week's latest poaching capture that Captain Tellis Bethel of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force confirmed the force has received reports of violence between poachers and local fishermen and has even itself had encounters. At the Defense Force's Coral Harbor base Monday, where poachers were brought in, Bethel urged Bahamian fishermen to avoid engaging poachers and leave the matter to authorities.
There have been some complaints concerning violence by Dominican fishermen against Bahamian fishermen. We ourselves have had some encounter to that extent, but we strongly advise local fishermen not to engage in any conflict at sea with the Dominican fishermen and allow the authorities to address that issue for their own safety and well-being.
Now, after praising the latest capture, Bethel noted the Defense Force is focusing patrols on hotspot areas where poachers are known to frequent, such as the Great Bahama Bank, and are also committed to their other duties.
It's our intention right now to, as best we can, to maintain a presence in the Great Bahama Bank area, as well as keeping a watchful eye for illegal immigration, as well as drug trafficking. Of course, we're conducting search and rescues as well. So far, we've had about 40 persons who were rescued at sea. And of course, work goes on for the hardworking members and staff of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. Of course, we are actively involved in maintaining watch in the southern coast of New Providence, as well as assisting police at former static sites and urban renewal.